Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Liz, and today I'm going to talk about the left brain versus the right brain dynamics and how it can really mess with your mojo. So I kind of touched on this a little bit in a video I posted about a month or so ago, but I'm not entirely satisfied with the depth of that conversation. So this is an issue I personally struggle with daily, and while I talk about this, I'll be painting this cat tutorial that I found online. And I apologize again, my head kept getting in the way because there were times when I just really wanted to get my eyes up on what I was doing, and when you're doing like fine details it's hard not to, so sorry. But anyway, so to introduce the previous concept of the left versus right, basically there is the notion that creative minds are more right-brained leaning and the more logical, analytical minds are left brain leaning, which most people have heard of this concept. And I wanted to explore it a little more before making this video, so I did a basic Google search to find a little bit more information. And one of the search hits I found was an article from Huffington Post, which is honestly not a news or information source that I personally find trustworthy, but I clicked on it anyway. The headline was basically, "Scientists debunk popular theory." A nice little piece of clickbait, in my opinion. Anyway, the article had zero substance to it and presented already interpreted information, so it didn't even have raw data. And this already interpreted information just concluded that the relationship of personality types between brain hemispheres does not exist. The study claimed to monitor individuals' brain connectivity and concluded that the connectivity was the same in all subjects. So we can't make our own conclusions of this data if we can't see it ourselves. So the very shallow reasoning behind the conclusions of the study I found to be a bit unsatisfying. So we don't know what the data looks like, and I mean, it's hard to make that conclusion. Anyways, basically what I'm saying there. So NPR had another article discussing the matter, but truth be told, my attention span just vaporized from all the tedium and puffed up language that the author was using. I really don't even know. I mean, if there was a conclusion to be made, it was lost in this fog of arrogance, and I didn't find it. So I just stopped reading. I was like, whatever, I'll continue on. So I don't have any personal data to present to you either, but only experiences. And these experiences are not meant to conclude definitively that this dichotomy exists, but maybe to help shine a different light on the phenomenon. I guess it kind of is a gray area, basically. So a few years ago, I was suffering from severe depression due to a variety of factors that were going on in my life. I don't consider myself clinically depressed, but everything was kind of hitting me all at once at this time. So like my job, the people in my life, my relationship, and then I was in the middle of moving, and it was just intense. So my heart would just kind of race randomly, and I went to the doctor. So when I went to the doctor, she said that my blood pressure was reading high. So I told her what was going on, and she suggested a low dose of Lexapro to help ease the stress and hopefully help my blood pressure go down. I don't know if you're familiar with Lexapro, but it's a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, which is short is SSRI. It's a class of antidepressants that basically what it does is it blocks your serotonin reuptakes It blocks your serotonin reuptake receptors in your neural network, so that your serotonin, when it's made, it kind of hangs out in the gap between your cell and there's like a synaptic cleft between like cells. So when it's passing that information over, your serotonin's kind of hanging out in that cleft a little bit longer, and it gives your body time to use it. So basically, like, without that, your body would just snatch it up and burn through it real quick, like people with, like, you know, the low blood sugar who have really high metabolisms. They just burn through it too quick and then they get dizzy and they need to eat. So it's kind of the same with serotonin. So it just kind of lets it hover in there for a little bit and just, lets you use it. So anyway, enough of that. But anyway, so I got put on this SSRI, a low dose. But I eventually increased it just a little because I was feeling more relaxed. So my relationships started to get better. I still had the stress at work and the loneliness of living alone without anyone nearby. Plus, there was a certain individual at work that made my life hell, and that paled in comparison to another individual that made it a point to make my time there even harder. So I had issues with coworkers that I had to grit my teeth and just keep going, like everything was okay. But at this time, I was also getting my master's degree. So my company was paying for me to get my master's, and I had my schooling to keep me relatively preoccupied. However, during this time, while being on Lexapro and getting my master's, I had no interest in soap making or art. It was almost as if my drive to do any form of art just dissolved in my brain. I was like laser focused on my master's and science, and I ended up getting a better position at the company, which was good. It was away from those horrible coworkers, and it was a better position overall. My husband and I bought a new house, and everything was on the mend. And after about another year on Lexapro, and I had been in my new position, I decided to just quit taking it. I was in a better place, finished my master's, better job, a fixed relationship, and a new home. So everything that I was struggling with before has been fixed. So I won't go into detail about quitting an SSRI-based antidepressant does to your brain right now, but maybe in another video because it was weird. Anyway, once I was off the Lexapro, my art started to just explode out of me. I couldn't get enough of it. I was trying everything, painting so much and drawing so much, like I was trying to catch up after 2 years of antidepressants. So when I reflect back on it, I realize that SSRIs have a more profound effect on the emotional part of our minds. So this makes a lot of sense, as I was clearly severely emotionally compromised, and anyone that needs help with depression, which is basically an emotional glitch, will use something that will help kind of curb emotions, for like a very basic elementary way to explain it. So please don't mistake my amateur analysis of depression as insulting in any way. I know there are a lot of people out there, and there are many forms of depression, chemical imbalances that manifest in different ways. I was not clinically depressed. I was having a hard time that was making me depressed. And this was helping me, and it was the type that was meant to help me in that way. And it was always meant to be temporary. So, but I believe that the core of these debilitating diseases, like these emotional or depression type things, they lie within our emotional centers. So our emotional centers are primarily on the right. So if I was using something to chemically alter the synapses on the right side of my brain, then logically my artistic side suffered from it. So if you use an analogy, during this time in my life, when an individual goes blind, their sense of smell and hearing increase to compensate, which makes sense, that's measurable. But just like the right artistic side of me was suppressed, the left, more scientific side took over. So it was really a plus for me because it ultimately helped me finish my master's and get a better position in research. So the takeaway from this was basically that during the 2 years I was on antidepressants, I had no desire for art. And once I got off of them, my creativity came bursting forth. However, just like the suppression of one side can enhance the other, by having equal portions of both, internal conflict can come about. So this can show up in the form of maybe not having a full skill set in either discipline. So I also wanted to mention that not too long ago, I had a very slight conversation with another person who completely dismissed the idea of left versus right, just by looking at my name, because it's Left Brain Liz. So it's like, I don't know. I guess they just made the assumption that that was my thing, because I never said anything about it. But he just completely was like, I don't believe in that. And, he just dismissed it by saying an asinine thing like, well, I don't believe it because I incorporated my EKG as part of one of my paintings. And I'm like, okay, good for you. I'm sure the painting was nice, but were you a part of interpreting the EKG, measuring it, knowing how to hook yourself up to even measuring it, getting the scientific knowledge to have the degree to actually do that? No, sit down. So I can incorporate footballs into my art, but I won't call myself a professional athlete or begin to tell people that I understand what it is to play football. So my point here is that you can't just simply dismiss an observable theory based on a superficial and kind of sophomoric thing that you did, and then talk at me with authority about it without hearing an opposing view. It's just simply childish. I basically said, "Oh, nice," to the fella and just moved on. So, I mean, not to say that I'm like, strongly for or against it either way, but I mean, come on, you can't just, yeah, okay, I put an EKG in my painting. Okay, whatever. Anyway, since I don't have measured data on this and only experiences, I can't tell you for sure that like artistic individuals are definitely right brain and mathematical people are definitely left brain, but I will say that the tendency to express one way or the other can be observed and even challenged by changing your perspective. I mean, that's basically it. Well, that's really all I had to say about this, I think. So I might do another story time video going into more detail about this time in my life because it had a profound impact. So I hope you enjoyed the process of my creating this cute little sucker through a watercolor tutorial by Maria, and I'll butcher her last name, so I'll link her channel below. If you'd like to subscribe to my channel, please click on my portrait on the right. And if you'd like to receive notifications when I post, just click on the bell. So until next time, bye.